What are we doing in small group? How are we taking the information we gave you? How are we turning it into a vibrant, meaningful discussion that's deep and goes somewhere? I've had the same conversation several times. I thought I'd make a video just to kind of give a clear direction for where we're going with that small group. And it really comes down to three stories. The foundation of what we do, of this relational evangelism and discipleship, is based on three stories. We want you to uncover your story and the ways that you see Jesus saving you, you see your brokenness, you see God at work in your life, victory, Uncover your story. Draw out their story with discussion questions that then lead to more questions, with interesting ideas of like, how are we going to structure this in order to best meet the need of our particular students? Are they chatty? Are they shy? Are they wild? Are they timid? All these kinds of things. Uncover your story, draw out their story, and connect the threads to God's story. The story of God's beautiful design and creation, of His mercy in the midst of our rebellion and brokenness, His pursuing us with Jesus, and His redemptive work on the cross, that Jesus has paid for our sin, and He has defeated death itself, and He's opened the door for us to walk with the living God for eternity, to be transformed, to be made new. Okay, so three stories. Share your story, draw out their story, and connect the threads to God's story. What does that look like? We gave you this curriculum with tons of information, and when you flip to the next lesson, you'll see the theme, you'll see these game ideas, you'll see all kinds of activities, but much of that stuff is going to happen in the chapel, in the large room with 100 some students. The part we want to put in your hand is called the discussion. So sort of flip through the pages till you get to that section that says discussion. We realize you can't have a vibrant discussion with 100 students in the gymnasium, but you can have a really vibrant discussion in a circle of 10 kids. So look at that section that says discussion, and then think about these three stories. You should add to that discussion your own story. Uncover your story, the way that this is at work in your life. Uncover and share the way that you've seen your own brokenness or God's redemptive work or your own victories. It's okay to share about your victories, but guys, let's be honest. I mean, a mature believer doesn't spend all their time tooting their own horn. A mature believer points out all the ways that God has sustained and redeemed and sometimes ruined and wrecked certain parts of their life, in a good way. Like, that's what a mature believer does, is they see and they share all the ways that God is the hero of their own story. So uncover your own story and the redemptive work of God. So bring a testimony to the table. Share your story. Secondly, ask those discussion questions, right? But we know that just reading a list of discussion questions may or may not work. It kind of depends on your group. And so I'll make a series of videos, 2 or 3 or 4 of my favorite gimmicks and methods for asking a list of discussion questions. And you can use them however you see fit. So share your story by bringing a testimony that's connected to the day's lesson. Draw out their story by using the discussion questions and maybe listening super carefully, so when they share an answer, that brings up a new question. We really want to draw out their story. The goal is not to cover a list of questions. The goal is to draw out their story. And some kids are really talkative and some kids are shy. Some kids are desperate to stay at the surface level and kind of hide who they really are and what they're really feeling. Even deeper than that, I think everyone is desperate to really be heard, desperate to be known. And this is the language of love, when we listen well. This is how people know they're loved, if you listen well to them. And so, share your story, draw out their story with the discussion questions. And the time is short. So if there's connections you can make to God's story, do it. Do it on the fly, but also recognize we're going to try to do that really, really straightforwardly in the chapel time. If we come back together for the wrap up, we're working to help you draw those threads, connect those threads back to God's story. We can't do it all in just a short 20-minute small group, but those 3 stories, share your story, uncover that, draw out their story, and connect to God's story. That's the foundation of every good small group, every good relational evangelism and discipleship as we walk together and raise up lifelong followers of Jesus.